Hi, out there in the world of living land. It is January, the 20. Took my calendar down. I put February up today. It's January 27th, and we had a weird night last night. It was really windy here in Sacramento, and so a lot of us lost power. A lot of us lost internet. So I couldn't jump on a call with my students and teach. So this afternoon I'm going to do some individual tutoring when we have power. So I had free time, and I don't do this very often, so I came up with something that I wish I could do. And what that is advice to my former self, the teacher that I started out to be in 1994. So I don't know, 27 years ago-ish, give or take a year of maternity leave in there, I don't know. So I was thinking, gosh, if I could have that conversation with myself, what would be some of the things I'd say? And not in any particular order, but I think that one of the things I really wish I would have done is to keep every single year the class picture of that group. And not for the reasons you might think, because you think, oh, you want to track those kids and see how they're doing. It really is more of, wow, I taught all those kids, right? I can do the math on that. I can multiply 27 times 30 kids. That's a lot of kids. And then of course, if you're a high school teacher, the number just metastasizes, right? But that's not the point. The point is that entire year, those 9 months, you were with those children for 6.5 hours a day. You know them. And beyond that, if you've taught at some of the schools I've taught at 5 schools in my career, you know the parents too. So it's a lot of relationships. And sometimes you have the same kids and the same family, but I really wish I would have kept those class pictures. I probably have half. I have a binder, and about, 8 years ago, I started thinking, I should save these, right? And in fact, one year, oh my God, this is great. One year, my class picture was taken with the substitute. She was a regular substitute at our school, in her defense. I was at the Boston Marathon doing that. It was in April. The pictures were on a Monday. And I came back 2 weeks later, get the class pictures, and I'm sorting through, handing them out to kids, and I realized I don't remember taking this. I wasn't here. So note to, if you're a substitute and you're watching this, maybe you want to step out of that class picture. I'm just going to tell you. Anyway, save those class pictures. I'd have 27. Actually 26. We didn't take a class picture this year. I took one on Zoom though. Anyway, second thing I would tell myself is that your children, if you've made children yourself, you and your spouse, partner, whatever you have out there, they come first. That means that if your child is sick, they need you. And they might, your husband or partner might work out just fine, but I tell you what, usually they want mama. And if they have 2 mamas, then you have to choose. But take that time off when your kid needs you. My kids were not very sick at all. I breastfed all 3 of them, which is, I think, probably helped. But when your kid needs you, they need you. I took a day off last week to drive my daughter to college. You do that. My husband and I both went together. You need to do that. They might need you for other things, but they come first. You've got a soccer game, and it starts at 4 or 3:30. You can't leave school early, but you can sure leave when the bell rings and bring your stuff with you. Do that. Don't stick around and work with a student who needs help. That's not your hours, and your parents will understand that. Those aren't the contracted hours. You're only your kids for a certain amount of time, and you sacrifice a lot already as a teacher, financially, emotionally, just everything. So your kids come first. Right there. Those 3 kids right there. Still have one at home, which is kind of nice. He's a junior this year. But my oldest son is, in graduate school for physical therapy. My middle child just, started her excitement out there in Chico. So this time goes quickly. Anyway, and you have those vacations with them, but your kids come first. Again, there's not one parent out there that's going to say, oh, well, she spends all the time with her children. No, they don't, because they're parents too. And always remember this. Most parents aren't teachers, but most teachers are parents. So they should understand. All right, so that's the second thing. And I didn't have kids when I first started teaching. I was newly married and, so those first couple of years were the exception because I lived in my classroom. Anyway. Okay, so number 3, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings out there, those of you excited teachers, but it's not the Heidi show. It's not the you show. It's not all about you. When your parents come to you concerned about something, you don't have to think, oh, maybe they don't like me. Who cares? Who cares? I know that's a big deal, especially if you're a middle child like me. Oh, God. Truth of the matter is, you're here to do a job. You've been hired to do a job. The parents in your classroom are just that you'll do the job. Do the job, whatever that means. And the credit or glory doesn't need to go to anybody. It just needs to work. It needs to happen the way it should happen, and it doesn't need to all look back on you. And I think coming off of the heels of our last administration here with ego getting in the way of people's jobs and things, you just don't want to do that. And I've done that before. I think I have. Looking back, I think there were times when I don't know, I just internalized things so much that it didn't really matter that the lesson was good, but did it look good, right? Or does the classroom look good because it reflects on me? Teaching is very performative, it's very isolating, and it's very personal. And so I think we have a tendency, collectively anyway, to have it be about us. But the truth of the matter is, it's really about the process. It's about the child, it's about the school, the community, it's about the families that need you for things. So yeah, your classroom should look nice. It shouldn't be your decorations that you think are pretty, or your font that's neat but confuses kids because you have an uppercase letter and a lowercase letter at those fonts are real nice, but if they confuse the kids right, but it makes you look good in your classroom, rethink that. So make sure that your classroom is set up to where kids are going to succeed and feel good about learning, because they're going to carry that out into what they do. And you know something? I've had 3 kids already come back and say, hey, I guess what, Heidi, or Mrs. Witter, depending on where I was teaching, I'm getting my teacher credential. Wonderful. And they don't need to say, it's because you were the best teacher in the world. No. It's because they felt good about learning, whether it was in this classroom or another classroom or in high school. So they walked away from education feeling like, I want more of that. I want to be part of that. So, we teach in whispers. We don't shout. You learn where you live. That's the bottom line. Okay, what's the other thing? Okay, so the last 2 things, because there's 5. The last 2 things. Number 1, writing is hard. It is harder than you think. And so when you set out to teach writing, consider that if this was a mountain and of language, writing is the summit of language. I grew up in the Philippines for a few years, 3rd grade there, and I never was able to write in Tagalog. I could understand it, I could speak it, I could even read it a little bit, but the 4th stage of really mastering language is writing it. And I never got there. I was never able to write a letter back to my Filipino friends. I could read some of the things they would write, but I certainly could communicate it. I could understand it, because boy howdy, I wanted friends. So I learned that language. So it's really hard to do. Language is hard, but writing is really, you have to have, it's almost like money in a bank. You can't withdraw money that's not there. So you can't come up with thoughts and ideas in a language that isn't there yet. So that's why it's so important that kids see quality writing. That they're reading material that's going to not evoke so much, but model for them how to do this. So we do that in little pieces and it builds on itself. It's like a beautiful painting, one stroke at a time. So we have these mini lessons as we go, and we're corrective about certain things, but we're not punitive. We don't take that red pen and start editing things. We revise. We look at it differently. We suggest. And we just paint with kids. So writing's a process. And I think that if I would tell my former self that, Heidi, this is a process. There's third graders, or whatever grade I was teaching at the time, because I've taught kindergarten through sixth, mostly third and fifth, but I've taught all grades, which I think is really important for all you teachers out there to see the big picture, because I know what writing looks like in kindergarten, and I know what it looks like in sixth grade, which I think is probably why I love third grade. So, and we always say with third grade, you begin third grade, learning to read, and you leave reading to learn. So what does that mean with writing? Writing's a process. So tap, tap, tap on the shoulder. Heidi, new teacher, let's take this one step at a time. Don't jump in the deep end and think all my kids are going to write beautifully because they like me so much. Does that sound familiar to some of you out there? It's a process, and you have to meet kids where they are. So the biggest part of that too in writing is setting them up for success, giving them those scaffolds, praising them, giving them opportunities, all that. It's how you get better at anything, right? You don't start out the soccer player who plays every game. You start out learning how to play. So we're learning how to do this. So writing's hard. I know a lot of teachers on YouTube say, "Oh, I'm really good. I love teaching writing." And writing makes me tired. But you don't teach it a long time. You teach it a little bit, and then they write. And a little bit, and they write. So I think that a lot of us who avoid doing that have to rethink that. So I would have told myself it's a process. And finally, number 5, drum roll please. I would say, Heidi, listen. Wait, what? Listen. Listen to your parents. Listen to your students. Shut your mouth and listen. What are they saying? What are they asking? What are they curious about? What are their concerns? So here's a quick story. I'll never forget Erin McDonough. I don't know if she's still out there in the world. 3rd grade, 1995. So Erin couldn't spell. And she was a sweetheart, little tiny thing. She had 2 loving parents who had Erin had a brother and a sister. And I sit them down at the conference and I say, this, that, and the other thing. She's doing well, but boy, she really can't spell. And they looked at each other and looked at me and smiled and said, mm-hmm. And here I am, new teacher. Well, I think that you need to have her doing this, that, and the other thing. We need to look at this. Her spelling. Oh. It's okay. She's doing well otherwise, great. And they left. And one of the things that her mom, Terry, told me later on was, Heidi, my kids always catch up. At the end of the school year, they're always where they need to be. And if they're not where they need to be, we move the finish line. And I thought, gee, those parents are crazy. So that class picture I've talked about when I started this, I found my class picture recently, and there's Erin in the front row smiling big time. She's a college graduate. She went up to where my daughter's going to school. Same with her brother and sister, and her mom and dad all went to the same college up in Chico. She has had great success in her life. And here I was worried about spelling. Spell check is something that we all use now, and spelling's not an indicator of intelligence, which is a bummer for me because I'm really good at spelling. But I digress. I have to listen to those parents, and I had to listen to my students. And once you listen to your students, it's game on. Game on. You're connected to them. They know that you care. You remember things they say because you're really listening. You're not thinking about what you're going to say next. So listen to your students. Listen to your parents. And listen to your gut instincts, because if you've taught long enough, you'll remember these things. And I gotta tell you one last thing. I had a student in my classroom just the other day. He said, And he wasn't supposed to be in my classroom, but you know. And we were talking about things, and he has some attention issues. And I said, you know, student, you're just perfect the way you are. I have attention things too, and I've learned how to do what I need to do. I spent a lifetime listening. I mean, asking the student next to me, what did the teacher just say? And now I teach for a living. So anyway, and I need to talk less. Anyway, he's looking at me, and he has kind of red hair and freckles, and just a nicest boy, but difficult time on Zoom meetings. He leaves the screen all the time. Has turned in probably 30% of his work. Doing the best he can. He looks at me after I tell him how perfect he is, and he said, yeah, but I wish I was black. And I said, student, why do you say that? What makes you, I mean, I don't understand why you think like that. He said, Black Lives Matter. And I said, huh, I remember that. I think you're right. They do matter. So does your life. I said, and I don't want to tell you right now that everybody's life matters. They do. But right now, people need your help. They need our attention, and they need action. A group of people need action and need attention for what's going on with them. Always walking that tightrope of saying the right or wrong thing, because I have so many of my friends who are, really, really putting a lot of time and energy into the BLM movement, and I understand that. But that wasn't his issue. I think, I could take this in many ways, but just listening to him told me that he wanted to be part of something bigger than him, bigger than what his living room offers right now and a screen. So listen to your kids, listen to your parents, and listen to yourself. You'll probably realize that you're doing just great. You're right where you need to be. So anyway, I just want to share that with you today out there in the YouTube world. And we have one more trimester to go here. We're a little over halfway through this school year pandemia. Anyway, you're probably doing better than you should be. See you later.